Welcome to episode 8 of the Silver Screen Scarehouse with Lisa and Linnie. I'm your host, Linnie, and with me, of course, is my lovely co-host, Lisa.
Hey.
When you come to the Scarehouse, we'll be reviewing 3 movies. We may not always agree, but as lifelong film fanatics, you'll get 2 honest opinions from different sides of the aisle, followed by an old-fashioned knives up, knives down final rating. This week, Lisa and I will be chatting about Spring, which is currently available VOD, as well as The Canal and Before I Go to Sleep, both of which are available on Netflix and various other VOD platforms. First off, let's chat about Spring. An aimless young man takes an impromptu trip to Italy and becomes involved with an alluring genetics student who harbors a transformative secret. Lisa, I'm going to let you go first on this one.
This movie had a lot of word of mouth, and I tried really hard not to listen to any of it, but people were really excited, so I was a little excited. And I really enjoyed the way it looked, and I liked the tone, and I really liked that young man.
Lou Taylor Pucci, who is in everything, literally everything.
He's adorable, and I totally want to be his girlfriend. He's so sweet. He's taking care of his grandmother, and it's a love story that happens to have horror in it, so really I should think it's the bee's knees, but I didn't. I thought it was fine. And the effects didn't really work for me.
Oh, wow. Okay. I was not expecting that. I actually feel the same way. Because it was a love story with only horror elements, I think that's probably why I didn't really respond to it. I don't really do romance movies. I also was bothered by some of the implications of the film. I feel like there wasn't a lot of focus given to her, whose name I am blocking on at this point. Balls. Oh well. The girl that he falls in love with. It felt like she was the horror version of a manic pixie dream girl. She only existed to further his growth into a fully fledged man, and she just also happened to be some sort of undefined monster creature that turns into an amalgam of every kind of monster. I don't know. It really didn't. Like you said, it was gorgeous. It was a really beautifully shot film. I think it was, from a cinematography standpoint, flawless. I think it was great. I think the acting was really good from everybody involved. I hated the first half. It felt very generic in that first half. I just didn't care at all until it got to Italy. It really wasn't engaging me at all. But yeah, I don't know. I know people love it, but I did not at all. It was pretty, but there are plenty of other pretty movies I can watch that actually affect me in a way, and Spring did not do it for me.
I found her 1,000% unlikable, so it was really hard for me to put the 2 and 2 together because I thought he was so sweet, but I didn't understand why he was on the verge of stalker behavior with this woman who was dismissive with him half the time.
Yeah, it seemed to be entirely about the way she looked, which was admittedly very gorgeous. She was a beautiful woman, but from a personality standpoint, like I said, there really wasn't anything all that appealing about her. She was an idea and not a fully fledged character. So I try not to base it on their other film Resolution, which I also hated, but I feel like a lot of the same problems with Resolution carried over into this, which are that the ideas are there, but they don't actually know how to execute them in a way that is entirely memorable. Like, I feel like people are talking about Spring because when everything you're seeing is mediocre, something that stands out just a little bit, everybody's going to talk about. But realistically, 10 years from now, are people still going to be talking about this movie? I highly doubt it.
No.
Yeah, I didn't know why some people like it, but I don't know. As I will say later when we talk about some other movies, I generally will tell people, if something new comes out, something that's not a remake or a sequel, something that's entirely original with a completely untouched story, I definitely recommend that you see it. And I think people are going to see this one way or the other. Like, if you're going to want to see Spring. But I actually would not recommend it from my standpoint, just because of all the problems it had for me. It's not the kind of movie I would run around telling everybody to watch.
I would recommend people watch it. It has a lot. It has a lot going for it. I think. I don't know what I was disappointed in. I can't specifically put my finger on it. It was lacking something, and I was sorely disappointed because I didn't even know what it was. Honestly, I had no idea what I was going into, and then when I realized it was a love story, I was pretty excited.
Right.
Because I'm a sucker. And then, I mean, technically the end is really sweet, but I still was just like, this girl doesn't just. I can't get down with this girl. I just can't. Like, he should come date me, okay? I don't know. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's the thing. She was enough for me to not be into it.
That's fair. That's totally fair. For me, it was just the lack of fully fledged characters. I feel like too much time was spent on him and not enough on her. And for me, that's not enough. Like, there wasn't enough for me to overlook that major plot element. So, yeah, it's pretty, but again, so are a lot of things. So, I guess for me, it's definitely a knife down. And for you?
What's a knife up? I think people should see it.
Fair. Yeah. So,
yeah. You might love it. It might be your favorite thing.
It's possible. Or you could be like me and not really care one way or the other. Spring on VOD now. Next up is The Canal, a movie that's been around for a little while, and Lisa actually saw pretty early.
I did. I got to see it when it was still making the festival rounds. I think it was this time last year, actually. But finally, it has made it to Netflix, so everybody can see it, and everybody should see it. It's written and directed by Ivan Kavanagh, and it's an Irish ghost story about a film archivist who is experiencing stress and is married at the exact same time he realizes his house is the scene of a brutal murder back in 1902. Linnie.
Yeah, this is one of those cases where, it may not have been my favorite film, but I think people should absolutely see it. The visuals were terrifying. I was utterly unsettled by a lot of the murder scenes, and the archive footage was absolutely frightening. Very well done. I was a little disappointed at the way that the marriage storyline point went. I was expecting something a little more original, I guess, than the way it went, trying to keep it spoiler-free. There are two separate endings to the film. I was totally down with the first one, and then the last kind of jump scare moment I kind of was not super into. But overall, I thought it was a really well done, very tensely British film, with a really interesting twist in terms of the archive footage and the murder in the house. It definitely took it to a new place that I thought was really cool. So for me, I definitely enjoyed it overall.
Well, I love this movie. I don't know that I've shut up about it since I saw it a year ago. And I'll keep talking about it until everyone sees it. I think it is gorgeous. It scared me. It legitimately scared me the first time I watched it. I've seen it numerous times since. It still unnerves me. The story, yes, there's the marriage story, but I don't know. I don't even care enough about that because the central ghost story is so solid, and the way that it's a dad dealing with his child and whether or not he's going crazy or it's real, and how does he protect his kid, and what is he going to do about this, that, and the other thing, and how is everybody perceiving him, and everything about it was just really engaging and engrossing, and it scared me, and I love the ending. I think that for me sealed the entire deal because it is absolutely shocking and heartbreaking, and I love it.
The actual very ending?
The end, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely was something original. I think I have a kind of mental block against children in peril. I guess that's a spoiler alert, but It's kind of like the first time I watched Sinister, I was kind of uncomfortable with the way it ended. And with over time, I softened to it, and I got that is a very visceral way to leave your audience uncomfortable. I think for me, it was just, it felt a little unnecessary, but I get it. I get how that ending is definitely effective. The scene in the tunnels towards the end is what really, that was solid to me. As a claustrophobic, I find anything like that stresses me out. So very unsettling. The birth scene.
That's usually where the birth scene is where some people are on board and then they're not once they see that. And I can kind of see that, but just let it go. I liked it because it was shocking, and I just was totally in. So anything they showed me, I probably was fine with.
Yeah, that's never going to be enough to turn me off to a movie. I've seen far worse.
I know, yeah. You can't scare me with that zombie vagina.
Yeah, no. I mean, I've seen a woman eat her own aborted fetuses in a dumpling, so you're not really going to turn me off with an icky baby birth scene. That's not really the worst. So, yeah, it's like we said, it is a visceral, beautiful movie. It's kind of got the it's not as technically gorgeous as Hannibal, but that's what the murder scenes remind me of when you got to the archive footage and then the flashbacks and the ghost scenes. I feel like a lot of care was put into the actual gore. It wasn't haphazard. It wasn't meant to just shock. It was supposed to be a full effect. And I entirely appreciate that, because I feel like a lot of filmmakers just think gore for gore's sake is enough to sustain a horror film. And that's definitely not the case here.
No, I feel like the gore here, it was almost shocking in its degree, the way it fit into the rest of the film, and not in a bad way.
No, absolutely. Yeah, and you don't, when you watch, I think it's always a little bit more shocking when you get that from a British film, because you're so used to them being a little more austere. Like, when it comes to British horror, it's usually either a comedy or something that's very subtle. And this was really the first one I can remember in a while that took it to a place like that. So I definitely appreciate it. Is it Irish? Am I getting that wrong?
I believe it is Irish.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, it's something you don't usually get from horror films from that area. And I fully appreciated that, too. I always like to be surprised when countries give us something different than what we're used to.
I just think it's gorgeous and everything about it. Well, I'm a sucker for a ghost story, and anything less is more. So I loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we both are definitely knives up on The Canal.
Yeah, knives up.
Awesome. Yeah, so watch The Canal on Netflix. If you haven't already, you should. Good grief. All right. Our last film, which should provide for some lively conversation, is Before I Go to Sleep, a 2014 thriller mystery starring Nicole Kidman and Colin Firth. Ever since a vicious attack nearly claimed her life, Christine Lucas has suffered from anterograde amnesia and is unable to form new memories. Every morning she becomes reacquainted with her husband Ben and the other constants in her life. In accordance with her doctor's instructions, Christine keeps a video diary, but as Christine starts to uncover terrifying truths about her past, she begins to question everything and everyone around her. Now, Lisa, you read the book. I haven't, so I'm going to let you go first.
Yes, I read the novel, I feel like 20,000 years ago. It's not that old, but it was one of those Kindle books. If you have a Kindle, they're always trying to make you, what about this book? What about this book? Hey, you read this book. What about this book? And so finally I was like, fine, Kindle, I will read before I go to sleep. And it was good, and then it shit the bed, and the movie was exactly the same. I literally fell asleep during the climax. I was just like, I don't care.
See, okay, for me, this movie made a case for why 50 First Dates is actually one of the most horrifying horror movies ever made. Like, that movie is not romantic. That movie should have been a living hell Like, and you wake up every morning next to Adam Sandler. Like, why are people not terrified watching this movie? And I feel like Before I Go to Sleep got that. The only benefit was, you're waking up with Colin Firth. That's better than Adam Sandler. Can't really complain. I liked it. I guess I was caught up in enough of the story that I didn't see the twist, and there is a very like capital, bold, underline, italicized twist that I probably should have seen coming. I admit that entirely. But I was so kind of lost in her relationship with her doctor, who's played by Mark Strong, who I love, that I really wasn't paying attention to anything going on with Colin Firth. It was one of those things that just wasn't really striking me as all that interesting. I was more interested in her videos and her doctor. That said, I'm not a huge Nicole Kidman fan. I'm not a person that runs out to see her films. So the fact that I liked it in spite of her is actually interesting as well. It's not revelatory. It's not going to change the face of cinema. It's nothing new. It's a story that, with the exception of the amnesia thing, we've seen the actual base story 1,000 times before. But for me, it was entertaining enough that it's not going to kill you to watch it. It's either you're going to love the ending or you're going to hate it. I enjoyed seeing a different side of Colin Firth. I think that for me was kind of the clincher. I can thoroughly say I've never seen him like that before without giving too much away. So for me, that was really what cemented it. But I'm interested to hear more of why you hated the movie.
I find it tedious that I have to keep reliving her days with her. I understand it's necessary, but I don't. I guess maybe because I went into this already not caring about her, I don't want to watch your video every day. And I don't want to watch Mark Strong explain himself every day, although I do love him. He is someone who I will watch a craptastic film just to get him. And Colin Firth was actually perfect for the character he was playing. But, yeah, to me, the twist, by the time I read it in the book, I was like, right, I don't care. And it just is true. You know what it was? It's a really, really glossy Lifetime movie that doesn't have Rob Lowe in it.
So absolutely.
Like
Absolutely.
No, it's just, I think you might die if you spend 90 minutes with it. I had to watch it twice in order to finish it, and I was very irritated, especially by the ending. The ending it's wrapped up in a beautiful bow, and I just thought, fuck all of you.
I would have enjoyed a darker ending. I can say that. It is definitely a little too rosy for the reality of how this situation would have actually ended in real life. It is very Lifetimey. I love Lifetime movies.
I'm not saying they're bad, but
I make no bones about that. I watch a lot of them. Big fan of the Jodi Arias movie. I'll probably watch that again sometime soon. Yeah, it is really Lifetimey. But Nicole Kidman is kind of making Lifetime her bitch now with the Grace and Monaco movie being on Lifetime all the time. So
no, that wasn't supposed to be on there.
Yeah, sucks to be her. Yeah, I feel like if I'd been reading the book, a 200-page book, it would have been a lot more annoying and a lot more obvious. But because it's like an hour and 40-minute movie, I wasn't that invested. So, you crank out the movie in an hour and 40 minutes, you haven't really lost all that much. But a book, I would have been a lot more pissed off. It would have been one of those toss it across the room moments. Like, why the fuck did you ruin my life with this? Because I've had those moments with books before.
It just, yeah, I could have been doing something else, like rereading something I like. So, clearly knife down for me.
Yeah, it's a knife up for me because, again, it's Colin Firth, it's Mark Strong. I never get tired of looking at them, and I enjoyed seeing Colin Firth play an entirely different non-Darcy character. So you don't get that very often because he is Mark Darcy. So knife up for me. Right. So that is it for this one of 2 episodes of the Silver Screen Scarehouse. I have lost my notes. I have too many things open on my window. Haha, here we go. All right.
Ah.
Haha. Thank you, Darklings, for joining us for episode 8 of the Silver Screen Scarehouse. If you'd like to chat with us about any of the movies we reviewed today, you can find me on Twitter at LinnieLooHoo, LINNIELOOWHO, and you can find Lisa on Twitter.
I'm at LCFREMONT.
And if you have a movie you'd like us to queue up in a future episode of the Scarehouse, drop us a comment below or let us know on Twitter. Stay stabby, kids.